Sigmas. You ever wonder why people misunderstand you, even when you understand yourself the least? Why does the world label you as aloof, distant, or mysterious, when in truth you're just focused, free, and fierce? Here's the bold truth. Sigma males don't even fully understand their own depth, and that's exactly what makes them powerful. The Sigma male isn't a stereotype, it's a psychological phenomenon. In the social dominance hierarchy, Sigma males are considered lone wolves. They operate outside of the typical alpha and beta structure, charting their own course, guided by inner values rather than societal norms. This isn't about arrogance, it's about autonomy. Studies in personality psychology associate this archetype with high introversion, high openness, and assertiveness, minus the need for control over others. That's a rare cocktail. So why are they misunderstood? Because society is hardwired to categorize people. And when you don't fit in a box, people label you as cold or antisocial. But that's surface-level thinking. In reality, Sigmas are deeply introspective and driven by self-mastery. Silence is their strategy, not a sign of weakness. They're not avoiding the world, they're processing it with surgical precision. And here's the twist. Most Sigmas don't realize that their quietness intimidates, their independence intrigues, and their unpredictability commands respect. Today we're diving into the real reasons behind the Sigma lifestyle, why you walk alone, why silence is your language, and why this misunderstood path is one of quiet dominance. Because what Sigma males don't realize about themselves is this. Their greatest strength is not being understood. It's being felt without saying a word. Hey Sigmas, welcome back to the channel where solitude is strength and the lone path is the only path. If you're a true lone wolf, this is your den. Smash that like button, subscribe, and let's break down the code of the Sigma male. Number one, you're not escaping the world, you're mastering it. A lot of people misunderstand Sigma males. They think Sigmas are just running away, ghosting relationships, avoiding people, ducking out of social circles like they're afraid of the world. But let's set the record straight. Sigma males aren't escaping anything, they're elevating. There's a massive difference between withdrawal and evolution. What looks like vanishing is actually transformation. Sigmas don't fade into the background. They step into a higher frequency, away from the noise and nonsense that others often mistake for connection. You're not hiding, you're observing, you're not afraid. You're just uninterested in distractions that dilute your purpose. When a Sigma walks away, it's not because he can't deal with the situation, it's because the situation no longer deserves his energy. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Most people stay in places, relationships, and routines that drain them because they're scared of the silence. But Sigmas, they embrace that silence. They know that solitude is where strategy lives. It's not a retreat, it's a recalibration. Science even backs this up. Studies in psychology show that solitude can increase productivity, creativity, and mental clarity. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's a tool. It's where the Sigma male reflects, resets, and refocuses. While others look outward for validation, the Sigma looks inward for growth, and that's why he often reappears stronger, sharper, and more focused than before. Every exit is calculated. Every step back is an intentional pause, not a permanent absence. Deep down, even if he doesn't say it out loud, every time a Sigma walks away, he's not disconnecting from life, he's reconnecting with himself. The world might think he's disappearing, but in reality, he's preparing for a return that no one will expect, but everyone will notice. Because a Sigma's solitude isn't a shield, it's a strategy. Number two, you're hardwired for depth, not drama. Why don't you do small talk? Because to you, it's just noise. It's not arrogance or social awkwardness. It's a matter of energy, alignment, and authenticity. You crave realness. You're not satisfied with surface-level chatter about the weather or last night's reality show. What you hunger for are conversations that wake the soul, challenge the mind, and stir something deeper within the spirit. You seek connection that means something, words that carry weight, and dialogues that stretch beyond the ordinary. But here's the tension. Most people don't have the emotional or intellectual bandwidth to meet you there. Studies in psychology suggest that only a small percentage of people are drawn to deep introspective conversations regularly. Most operate comfortably in casual, predictable exchanges. For you, that's not enough. You want substance, depth, purpose. Your energy is sacred, and you've learned not to waste it in places where there's no resonance. What you might not always realize, however, is how this intensity is received. It can intimidate, it can unsettle. People mistake your calm presence and selective engagement for aloofness. They interpret your silence as distance. In reality, you're simply filtering, you're observing, you're measuring whether the moment calls for truth or restraint. And if the energy isn't right, you don't fake it. This is why you've been labeled as cold or emotionally unavailable. But here's the truth. You're not cold, you're controlled. Controlled in the best way. You've trained yourself to master your emotions, to stay grounded, to speak with intention rather than impulse. And in a world that glorifies oversharing and superficial connection, that makes you rare. Neuroscience even backs this up. Deep thinkers tend to operate with more active regions in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain involved in self-control, reflection, and future planning. You're wired for depth. You don't just talk to hear yourself speak, you speak to make meaning. So instead of doubting this about yourself, own it. You were never meant to be everyone's cup of tea. You were meant to be fire in a world afraid of heat. That quiet strength you carry, it's not a flaw, it's your power. Let others play in the shallow end. You were built for the deep. Number 3, you underestimate your influence. Sigmas don't flex, they don't chase, they don't boast. But make no mistake, there's power in their quiet. While the world is busy being loud, desperate for attention, validation, and applause, the Sigma male moves differently. He's the man who doesn't need to speak to be heard and doesn't need to perform to be noticed. It's not arrogance, it's presence. And what most people don't realize is that this presence, it speaks volumes. When a Sigma walks into a room, something changes, the energy shifts. People sense something they can't quite explain. He might not say a word. He might not even make eye contact, but somehow he's the one everyone is aware of. This isn't magic, it's behavioral psychology at work. Studies show that nonverbal cues, body language, posture, stillness can carry more weight than words. A person who exudes calm confidence without needing to prove themselves often commands more attention than someone shouting for it. The Sigma male has mastered this. He's refined the art of letting his silence speak. And here's where it gets even more interesting. While the Sigma thinks he's blending in, staying under the radar, people are actually watching closely. His silence becomes a source of curiosity, even obsession. Why doesn't he talk more? What's he thinking? What's his story? The unknown becomes magnetic. In psychology, this is referred to as the mystery effect. People are more attracted to those they can't easily figure out. So, while the Sigma assumes no one's paying attention, his restraint is making him unforgettable. In a world full of noise, silence becomes powerful. In a crowd that screams for relevance, the Sigma thrives by not trying. His refusal to chase trends, beg for attention, or seek validation is exactly what sets him apart. This is silent dominance, not the kind that demands submission, but the kind that commands respect without effort. It's not about being better than others. It's about being so comfortable in your own skin that you no longer feel the need to prove anything. So to every Sigma out there thinking no one sees you, think again. They see you, they notice you, they remember you, and they're wondering how you do it without even trying. That's not weakness, that's power. That's your quiet storm. And in the grand theater of life, where everyone's screaming their lines, the Sigma steals the scene simply by standing still. Number 4, you think you're a loner, but you're a leader in disguise. You're not just alone, you're an example. That solitude you're walking in, it's not a punishment, it's a platform. You see, in a world constantly craving approval, the person who dares to detach becomes a symbol of quiet rebellion. Your independence doesn't just set you apart, it sets a new standard. While others look outward for validation, you've turned inward for direction, and that choice, whether intentional or instinctive, makes you magnetic. People are watching you, not because you shout the loudest, but because you carry a presence that doesn't need noise to be noticed. You're living proof of what happens when someone stops begging for acceptance and starts building their own blueprint. Psychologically speaking, humans are wired for belonging, but the rare few who learn to find peace in solitude develop a higher level of emotional autonomy. According to research in behavioral science, emotional autonomy is one of the highest forms of maturity. It's what allows individuals to respond rather than react, to observe rather than absorb. And that's what makes you different. You don't react to chaos. you remain centered in it. Your silence isn't emptiness, it's strength under control. Every choice you make without seeking applause teaches others that validation isn't a requirement for success. You're a disruptor, not in the flashy, attention-seeking way, but in a manner that quietly challenges the status quo. Like water carving through rock, your persistence, not your volume, is what leaves a mark. In a world full of barking orders and performative dominance, you don't raise your voice, you raise the standard. You don't declare yourself the leader, you simply become the order others instinctively follow. And maybe you don't even realize it, but your life is leadership in motion. Not the kind that demands loyalty or begs for followers, but the kind that inspires reflection and makes others question their own potential. People study how you move, how you think, how you maintain discipline without display. Your influence isn't loud, but it's lasting. You're not just walking alone for your own sake. You're walking ahead, showing the way. And in doing so, you've become more than a lone wolf. You've become a quiet force, a signal, a living map for those seeking something more than what the noise of the world has to offer. Number 5, you don't chase respect, but you command it anyway. You don't chase admiration. You don't craft your life around applause, and yet people admire you, not despite your detachment, but because of it. That's the paradox of the Sigma male. In a world saturated with noise, performance, and endless self-promotion, your silence becomes a statement. Your stillness becomes magnetic. While others are broadcasting their highlight reels to earn validation, you're simply with purpose, with precision, and with power. That very refusal to play the game is what rewrites the rules. It's human nature to be curious about what we can't easily access or understand. And that's where your detachment creates the first ripple. You don't overshare, you don't explain yourself. You don't force connection. This restraint naturally sparks intrigue. Think about it. Throughout history, the most revered figures, Bruce Lee, James Dean, Keanu Reeves, weren't adored because they demanded attention. They were admired because they carried an air of mystery, a quiet storm of self-assurance that made people wonder what was going on beneath the surface. Your consistency is another layer of this paradox. While the world sways between trends, moods, and masks, you remain anchored. You show up for your work, your vision, your path, not for the audience, but for yourself. That level of commitment is rare. And when people witness someone who doesn't waver to please, who stands firm even when unnoticed, they begin to trust that person's authenticity. Credibility isn't something you shout, it's something you. And here's the key. You're not trying to be unforgettable, you're just existing with intensity. There's no gimmick, no forced charisma, no theatrics. Just the raw energy of a man who knows who he is and refuses to compromise that essence for a cheap moment in the spotlight. Ironically, this kind of presence leaves a lasting impression. You don't imprint by pushing yourself forward. You do it by pulling inward, by mastering your space, your time, your mind. Sigmas, this is your power. While others mold themselves to fit the world, you mold your world to fit you. And people notice. Even if they can't explain why, you become the silent influence in the room, the unspoken standard, the one who makes noise without ever raising his voice. Number 6, your emotional detachment is actually emotional intelligence. People say you're unbothered, distant, ice cold, but what they don't understand is that you're not numb. You're just intentional. You're not lacking emotions. You're simply not leaking them all over the place for cheap validation. You've learned the difference between reacting impulsively and responding wisely. In a world where emotional outbursts are applauded as authentic, your calm presence becomes unsettling to those who thrive on chaos. But this isn't apathy, it's emotional mastery, something that takes years of self-awareness, reflection, and discipline to develop. You feel everything. In fact, you often feel more deeply than most people around you. But unlike those who instantly lash out, break down, or spiral into emotional noise, you pause, you analyze, you calculate. You sit with your feelings instead of letting them sit on top of you. Neuroscience even backs this up. The ability to delay reaction and engage your prefrontal cortex, the brain's decision-making center, means you're functioning with higher emotional intelligence. In short, you're not suppressing emotions, you're managing them. Society, on the other hand, seems addicted to instant gratification and dopamine spikes. The news, social media, and reality shows encourage us to be reactive. Clickbait headlines and online drama provoke outrage for engagement, but you don't play that game. You operate from a different frequency. one rooted in stoicism, not stimulation. While others chase noise, you cultivate silence. You know how to walk away without a dramatic exit. You protect your energy not because you're afraid to connect, but because you know not everyone deserves access to your inner world. This isn't emotional detachment, it's emotional strategy, and that strategy is rooted in discipline, not denial. Just like a martial artist doesn't strike without purpose, you don't respond without intention. It's not that you don't care, it's that you care too much to waste energy on the wrong battles. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And let's be real, emotional mastery doesn't mean you never feel rage, grief, or heartbreak. It means you've learned how to channel those storms without letting them capsize your ship. You've realized that calm isn't the absence of emotion, it's control over how it's expressed. That makes you powerful in a way the loudest voice in the room could never be. Because at the end of the day, it's not the loudest that wins, it's the most centered. Number 7, you're building in silence what others brag about loudly. You don't need to post every win. You don't need applause, because true strength doesn't crave validation. It thrives in silence. In a world obsessed with likes, views, and constant self-promotion, your quiet progress is a rebellion. You understand something most people miss. The loudest person in the room is often compensating for something. Noise rarely equals power. In fact, studies in psychology reveal that overcompensation is a common trait among individuals who feel insecure or unsure of their value. So, when others feel the need to broadcast every achievement, you're fine moving in silence. You build, you plan, you strike. Just like a master chess player, you anticipate your next move while others are still caught up in the moment. This isn't just strategy, it's your way of life. Research on high performers, especially in fields like entrepreneurship and elite sports, shows a common thread. They work obsessively behind the scenes, often avoiding the spotlight, until it's absolutely necessary. This mindset is rooted in something deeper than ambition. It's about alignment. You're not just working for success. You're aligning your actions with your purpose, your vision, your higher goals. That's silent work ethic. It's your signature. It's what separates those who are committed from those who are just performing. And while others chase attention, trying to look like they're winning, you're aligning with growth, legacy, and something real. This is not about ego. It's about efficiency, discipline, and mastery. You don't need noise to be powerful. You're the quiet storm, the force no one sees coming. And by the time the crowd realizes what you've built, it's already too late for them to catch up. Number 8, you're attracting more than you know. Even when you think you're off the grid, people are watching. Not because you're loud or attention-seeking, but precisely because you're not. In a world addicted to noise, your silence is deafening. Your calm presence creates a gravitational pull. While others are broadcasting their lives, you're just living yours, intentionally, quietly, and with purpose. But that quiet rebellion, that's what draws eyes your way. This is the essence of the Sigma paradox. You're not trying to lead, but people still follow. You're not chasing approval, yet you command respect. You're simply being yourself, living authentically, pursuing your interests, setting your own schedule, and walking your own path. And while you might feel like you're blending into the background, something about your energy disrupts the norm. Your stillness makes others restless. Your focus makes them curious. Your detachment makes them crave your attention. From a psychological standpoint, this isn't just mystique, it's human behavior. The scarcity principle plays a role here. When something or someone is hard to access, people assign it more value. Sigmas naturally create that effect. You don't flood the room with words, you fill it with presence. You don't seek validation, and that makes others seek yours. You're the fantasy people can't define, the mystery they ache to solve. And ironically, the less you try to attract, the more magnetic you become. In a world wired for conformity, being unapologetically yourself is revolutionary. That quiet strength, that calm confidence, it's rare, and rarity turns heads. You live off-grid, yet remain in everyone's orbit. That's not a mistake. That's the Sigma way. Sigmas, here's your reminder. What sets you apart isn't a flaw, it's a feature. You're not weird, you're just wired on a frequency most people can't tune into. Society calls it strange, but it's actually strategic. You're not lost either. While others wait for directions, you're already building your own path, quietly, deliberately. Your silence isn't coldness, it's calculation. You observe, assess, and act only when necessary. That's not passive, that's power. You don't need to speak loudly because your presence says enough. Real influence doesn't scream, it echoes. And now that you're starting to recognize the depth of your design, it's time to own it. The world isn't a stage where you perform for applause. It's a chessboard, and every move you make matters. So move like a Sigma, smart, silent, and strategic. If this resonated with you, like the video, subscribe and join our tribe of lone wolves changing the game. Stay sharp, stay true, stay Sigma.